Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. So this is session 8 of the Rains Retreat 2025. And the theme today is Samma Samadhi, usually translated as right concentration, but I prefer the word collectedness, right collectedness. And this word samadhi is, in the context of meditation, is used quite a bit. You know, as you remember, the threefold explanation of the Eightfold Path, Sila, Samadhi, Panya. In that case, the samadhi stands for three factors: right effort, right mindfulness, and right collectedness. It actually, in different contexts in the Pali Canon, there's many uses of the word samadhi, and even but the word right samadhi, that's what we're concerned with, samma samadhi, in a special context. And even though this samadhi is really is used collectively for meditation, and meditation is a very significant part of the Buddhist teachings, so it's very well known about. However, surprisingly, there's still a lot of controversy. Aha, you ready? Wake up. You're controversial and you wake up. Aha, something interesting. No scandals, yeah. I mean, I won't mention the scandals anyway. but no names. So sorry, I won't be that scandalous. But anyway, but over the years there have been various, even though the Buddha, clearly delineated what right collectedness was, samma samadhi. Over the years, there have been various meditation schools have developed. Different teachers have different experiences, and then they claim they have the right understanding, the right experience, and then they proclaim their teaching, and then sometimes they try to kind of key it into the Pali Canon, but maybe in the process kind of twisting the meaning around a little bit. but as part of Theravada is sort of, you can say, authenticity. We look back to the Buddha as the teacher, the Pali Canon as his words, and so, that's what Theravada means, the word of the elders. The Vada is the words, and Thera is the elders. So it's a sort of a conservative approach, I guess you can say. But over the years, there have been various interpretations, and it's hard to know what the history was, but in the more recent history, there's been quite a lot of discussion about what samadhi is and its relevance and all that. So anyway, I'll try and add my opinion to the pot. My educated opinion, I would say. Being very humble, of course. But it's also, over the years, with development of samadhi, of meditation, people have had, you can say, they've experienced it, experienced samadhi, they have more experiences about it. Like the whole theme of meditation, when I first heard about it 50 odd years ago, it was a very new phenomena in the West. And everybody was, they, of course, it's presented in a very attractive way, peace of mind, calmness, enlightenment, blah, 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 blah. They don't tell you all the problems that come from meditation either. Later, we begin to hear about people who go crazy with meditation, but that's kind of the side effects, the unpleasant side effects. That's not really meditation. People were not meditating properly. They didn't have the proper teacher, etc. And many times they're right. There's so many different variations that people get confused. Not to mention other religions. I mean, not to mention, Mahayana Buddhism or Hinduism or something. And even Christianity has their meditation practices. Just keep the Theravada today. You only have a short time, you see. So even that might fill up the whole hour. But anyway, I think the main issue is, the Buddha gave these guidelines. He did have his own profound meditation experience. If you remember the life of the Buddha, he started off on his spiritual odyssey by seeking out meditation teachers, 2 of them. And they taught him these very advanced meditations, and he apparently was a very gifted meditator. He was very intelligent, very earnest. He was a spiritual seeker. He left his, comfortable living environment, to go off and find the truth. So he wasn't going to beat around the bush. It wasn't just a career move. If it was a career move, it was down to the homeless life. It wasn't up. So anyway, he was very serious. So he apparently, the story goes, it didn't say how long, but he perfected these meditation practices from the Hindu teacher. But it wasn't actually Hinduism then. They were, it was Brahmanic tradition in India at the time. But anyway, he practiced with the teachers who were around that time. But he found it lacking. He said, this is not the way to awakening. So the Buddha, he left his teachers, even though they wanted him to join him as a teacher or assistant teacher. But he said, no, I want to find Nibbana. So he broke off and began to find his own path. Did the ascetic practices, which was the other, kind of way of spiritual practice, ascetic practices, torturing the body and all kind of asceticism. Fortunately, he found that was also lacking. It was also not the right way. Fortunately for us, imagine sleeping on a bed of nails. We just sleep on hard floors. What's that? So the middle way. Simplicity more than asceticism, you see. Anyway, the Buddha developed his own practice, his own way, and it became later known as calm and insight meditation. The calm meditation he learned from his previous teachers, samatha. It was very common, and it still is in India. The Hindu yogis are very adept at developing samatha, deep levels of concentration, apparently. That's why they can have these, apparently with deep levels of concentration or collectedness, you can develop the psychic powers. Yeah. So anyway, the point was that the Buddha had this experience, and then he tried to explain it. However, samadhi goes beyond logic. It's a state of, an altered state of consciousness. And even the Buddha, at one point, he even said that the whole realm of samadhi is one of the incomprehensibles. I would say what he means is this: it can't be fully understood by the conceptual mind or the logical mind. So it's a profound, otherworldly experience. Basically, if those who meditate realize that if you think, you can't focus, right? So it goes beyond thinking. That's what the whole point of samadhi is, to go beyond the thinking. The thinking is still very, very subjective. I think according to what I learned, how I think, how I expect things to be. I can't think outside, or it's very hard to think outside the box, basically. But with samadhi, you can experience outside the box. Of course, outside the box is pretty big. so outside the box is bigger than, it's like, the box is this room here, and the rest of outside the box is everything else in the universe. So it's helpful to have a guide, because you can get lost out there in the universe, you see. So, but basically, the principle is, the whole principle of samadhi is it's a focusing of attention. Again, we come back to attention again, right? You got that, a basic function of the mind's attention. What you attend to is a very, very powerful effect, not only on your mind, but on your personality and partly what you focus on, what you give attention to, is developed, is directed by your personality. I like the color green, so I look at trees. And I studied geology, so I look at rocks. When I was going on our wandering tour in England one time, there were three of us, myself, another monk, and an Anagarika. And we were walking in the west of England, from Bath to Shrewsbury. Those who know Great Britain, along the Welsh borders, you see. Anyway, it was very interesting because I had studied geology, so I was looking at the rocks. The other monk, he had studied about birds. He's looking at the birds. And the Anagarika knew about plants, so he's looking at the flowers. So we had a very interesting walk together. Look at that rock, look at that bird, look at that flower. I learned about flowers and birds a little bit, and they learned about rocks. Anyway, in the practice of samadhi, what it is, most of us, most of the time, live within the reality of subject-object. The dualism of subject and object, right? This is the subject, there's the object out there. So, like I say, I observe the object out there, and I have my interpretations of it. And, well, without being an arahant, they're usually wrong. They're distorted, but anyway. But anyway, we all function in this realm of subject and object. So, but in samadhi, we're talking about unitary consciousness. So what we start off with subject, myself, taking up a meditation object, subject and object still, and you start focusing on the object. As you focus, the subject and the object come closer and closer together. And when these two unite, subject unites with the object, we have unitary consciousness. The only thing the Buddha discovered was it doesn't last forever. People enter into samadhi states, and that there's one level apparently you can stay in this state for 7 days before you come out of it and have to go to the toilet or eat, But you can imagine that, normally most of us are functioning within this subject-object duality realm here. And some people are very, very, they're very rigid in their approach. I was just wondering, I don't know too much about psychology, but I wonder if somebody who's OCD, what does it mean again? Obsessive compulsive. They have to have the world kind of very, very sorted out very, very rigidly, you see. If they have to hold on to a very, very fixed way of view of reality, you see, in order to stabilize their self, you see. But when that shifts, then people get confused. And as the subject and object reality kind of shifts in dimension, strange things happen. If you remember what I said about the perceptual process in Buddhism, there's stages in it. First there is the vinyan, just the knowing, bare knowing, seeing. Then there's feeling. Then there is what we call sanya, perception. Or I can say, I define it as a recognizing. You see, there's just, there's something black there. Your bare knowing just picks up, your eyes just pick up color and shape. Something black and square, rectangular. And then it's a sanya that says, that looks like a clock. But maybe it's not. Maybe it's a brick. But I know it's a clock. It's got little numbers on it. I've seen it before, many times, you see. And then Sankara says, now what to do with that clock. Tells you the sanya tells you, that gives you the meaning of it, and then the Sankara gives you what to do with it, the action. Kara, Sankara. Kara comes from kama. So there's a kama in it. What to do with it now? Just read it, check the number. I don't take it up to my hut. I don't damage it, don't destroy it. I just have to use it. But when this subject-object dimension begins to shift, no more sanya. So just knowing, bare knowing. So what's happening here? What else? What's going on here? So what can happen is people get distortions of perception. The ordinary perception of things gets distorted. So people have you can say very simply, have strange experiences in samadhi when the mind gets more and more calm, more collected. You may notice at the beginning, when we try to focus on meditation object, little voice comes up and says, this is the way it is, that's like this, is like that. It's like, you're doing really well, yes, this is good, it's progressing, blah, blah, blah. But if you continue with it, that drops away. Silence. When the mind becomes more quiet, you get very less references now to reality. Is this okay? No answer. Must be good. Maybe you've fallen asleep. Anyway, the point is that in order to reach this unified consciousness, the mind begins to shift. So we have altered states of consciousness. Mind is altered and intensified too. Yeah? So there's it's just, many things can happen then if the mind is your focus of mind, your mental energy is focused too, so it can go anywhere. Yeah? So that's why the Buddha gave us some very, very helpful suggestions, very helpful groundwork, foundation for developing this practice. The many uses in the Pali Canon of the word samadhi, they all imply it's some kind of focusing or collectedness of mind. Mind's collected. Whether this is collected on contemplating or is collected on a physical object like walking or breathing. But there's 40 meditation objects in Theravada. 40. There's actually even more, but 40 is probably enough for you. And they have different purposes. Some of them are discursive, like the recollections of the Buddha. Every evening you do 3 meditations. Recollecting the Buddha, right? Do you say it in English? Now let us chant the recollection of the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha. So it is still a mental activity, but it's a skillful one. So, for people who have been Buddhists, traditionally Buddhists, when they recollect the Buddha, automatically there's the association of peace, the image of the Buddha there, peace of mind. So maybe your mind's very busy, you need to think about Buddha. Buddha didn't have a crazy mind like mine. Buddha had a peaceful mind. Oh yes, that's a good idea. Try that. Some of the meditations are on objects, like of course the breathing. There's also ones which require contemplation, the 4 elements, for example. Anyway, these different meditation objects have different results, give different results. But basically, it's a matter of experience. You kind of read all about the different, but important point is the experience. So better to start off with a simpler one. Start off with something like breathing as a simple meditation. It's the most universal, the most common, the most, probably the easiest to relate to. There's not a lot of Buddhist jargon in it, just breathing. But how we do that, first of all, is usually with concept. Even something physical like the breathing. You say, what's the breathing? And then you go in your brain and start thinking about it. Okay, but it gives you direction. So you start, the breathing, right, yeah. Try and get down to the direct experience. And maybe you can then go beyond the concepts about it and get to the direct experience. Maybe to the point of this unified consciousness, unitary consciousness. And it is said, that when the mind becomes close to this unitary consciousness, then there's a shift, like from the physical object, becomes a mental image called nimitta. And it can be different for different people. Sometimes it's just a bright light, and if you aren't prepared for it, it can be a bit of a shock. Suddenly my breathing is light, bright light, enlightenment. No, Oops, not quite. So anyway, the Buddha gave us some very helpful supports for developing this samadhi. You know, if you read the passage I pointed out to you, I wrote on the board there, you know, the second discourse of the Digha Nikaya. So there's a kind of a preliminary. It starts off basic. It is kind of like kind of a stock phrase. Of course, occurs very often in the Pali Canon. So first of all, one has a certain amount of faith or trust in the Buddha and his teaching. I would say that's just equivalent to right view. That one recognizes that, you know, there's a causal process involved. You know, when basically the principle of karma, skillful actions give skillful results. Unskillful action give unskillful results. Yeah. So, and based upon, you know, and the causal sequence goes further too, that, you know, skillful actions, you know, there's a variety of skillful actions, you know, besides, you know, the morality, the precepts. So one trusts that is correct, and one begins to practice. Then one takes up the precepts, the moral conduct. Then one follows what's called the restraint of the senses, or I find it more useful to say putting a guard at the sense doors, because it is a senses, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind, that, you know, skillful, unskillful, come into the body, come into your mind. You know, you see them through the senses, and if there's a guard there, you recognize, oh, hey, this is not so skillful, don't go there. You know, because it can make it, you know, can really make a strong impression sometimes, especially when you have samadhi. You know, like so-called beautiful things suddenly become very extremely beautiful. Wow. Ugly things become very, very ugly. So you haven't got a bit of restraint to watch out. Give you a bit of a shock. And then mindfulness and clear comprehension, clear awareness. And then with the, you know, mindfulness after the senses, mindfulness, observing, we learned that last week, you know, being aware of the feelings, the states of mind. And when you notice that there's unskillful states of mind, then step away from it. Close the door of the sense, you can say. The guard closes the door. And then after mindfulness, then contentment. This is living a simple life, simplifying your life, being content with just the simple things of life, eating, the food given and the clothes and lodging, etc. Then the resort to a secluded place, like Wat Buddhamma. And then one formally takes up the meditation exercise of focusing on a meditation object. And then with this, the Buddha gives the most common explanation of Samma Samadhi, what's referred to as the four absorptions, the four jhanas. These are very, 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 very deep states of concentration or collectedness, which also have, I use the word collectedness because there's a number of different qualities in them. Like the first absorption has 4 qualities. You know, so you can recognize, well, you can say the 5 hindrances are put to sleep for a while. Then as 4 qualities come to the forefront. So with the practice of mindfulness, one maybe remembers that one of the themes of mindfulness, developing mindfulness, was the 5 hindrances, right? Remember that? Yeah, 5 hindrances, the factors of awakening. There, so one understands, if one has developed this mindfulness to some degree, that level, or that, you know, refinement, then one knows about these hindrances, 5 hindrances. What are they, 5 hindrances?
Ill will, sensual desire, tiredness, and restlessness, and skeptical doubt.
Yeah. Just for the camera. Sensual desire, ill will, sleepiness and lethargy, restlessness and worry, and doubt. And one knows how they arise and what leads to their passing away, and what also leads to them being prevented from arising in the future. So that's how one really understands what the hindrances are. So when observes that these 5 hindrances have been given up, it's more like they aren't totally gone, but they've been put to sleep. See, if you're focusing on meditation object, first of all, the subject still has hindrances, right? But as you get closer to the object has no hindrances. So the closer the mind comes to the object, the less there is hindrances, because you're focusing on the object, not the hindrances. If your mind is not very stable, not much collectedness, then the mind trying to observe the object, then it hindrance, distraction, right? Notice that? So you forgot the object. So, okay, back to the object again. Another hindrance comes along and puts you to sleep or something, or okay, back to the object again, back to the object. And you keep going back to the object enough, finally you can unite with the object and the hindrances disappear. However, it's only temporary while you're in that state. When you come out of it, oh, guess what? Hindrances are right there. They haven't totally gone. They've just been put to sleep, basically, because you aren't paying attention to them. You don't give them attention. So and your mind is so focused, they can't get into your mind, you see. Your mind is so focused on the object, the hindrances can't get into it, can't get into your mind. So when you observe the hindrances have passed away, delight arises. And then from the delight, joy arises. From the joy, the mind is calmed. When there is calmness of the body, then there is well-being arises. With well-being, there is collectedness. You know, if there is, if you really feel well, feel happy, do you think about anything else? No, happiness. So your mind's collected until a hindrance comes along and then takes you away from it. Anyway, one already has some degree of collectedness then from the well-being that arises from the hindrances passing away. It's already, for most people, that's already a very, very profound state of mind, isn't it? Imagine all your hindrances passing away. Wow, I'm perfect. No hindrance, no greed or aversion. I'm perfect. Yeah. Well, that's greed. I like it. I want it. Okay, back to the object again. And then here we come to the 4 absorptions now. Being aloof from sensuality, aloof from unskillful conditions. When it enters upon the first absorption, which is accompanied by, you can say, initial and sustained mental application, with joy and happiness. So there's initial and sustained mental application, that's 2. Then there's joy and well-being, 2 more themes in that first absorption. And with this joy and well-being, born of seclusion, one suffuses, overflows, and pervades the entire body. So there's no part which is untouched by this joy and well-being, born of seclusion. Sound good? You want to just rush out there and practice, right? That's the theory anyway. For the second one, the initial and sustained thought passes away, but there's still joy and well-being, and tranquility and one-pointedness. In the third one, there is a fading away of joy, even. Equanimity begins to dominate. Equanimity, mindfulness, and clear knowing, and then the being equanimous and mindful is a pleasurable abiding. In the fourth one, even the pleasure, well-being passes away. Complete equanimity, purified, mindfulness purified by equanimity. And there the body is purified of mindfulness purified by equanimity. There is no part which is not untouched by this purified and cleansed mind. So those are the four absorptions. But as I mentioned, there's other definitions of collectedness, which maybe are not so refined or not so clearly delineated. And I was just contemplating many people have had experiences of samadhi, I would say, of collectedness. But many of them didn't even know it. I lived for quite a while in Switzerland. People go to the Swiss Alps, I would say, for their samadhi experience. They don't know it, though. They go there for the scenery. It was the scenery that creates that. An example was there was a particular, there was quite a few lookout points in the valley where the monastery is, and there's one in particular. It's not actually registered as a lookout point. It's just a path on the map. It's a very, very steep climb up to it because the valley is very steep. And the monastery is at 1,200 meters, and the valley goes up like 300 or 400, 500 meters straight up on both sides. So the one path you go up to this particular point, and it's a meeting of two valleys. And if you hopefully you're well grounded, or you don't have dizziness, but you go to the edge of the valley to look down, and if you don't have fear and shaky knees and etc., it's an instant samadhi experience, because that view it's like something you'd never seen before in your life. It takes your breath away. So for that 1 millisecond before the fear kicks in, you want to run back to your safe place, your hotel room. you have a moment of samadhi, and you get a real adrenaline rush, maybe even something serotonin or something or other, because it can be pleasurable too. It can be shock. There's a bit of fear in it, so you get some adrenaline. Maybe it's also very pleasurable too, because it's wow. You just see straight down this valley, like you've never seen it before. No sanya. There's no perception of anything. What is this? And of course, it's because it is so new and unique, your mind is just blank. Can't quite. And then your second thought is, get the camera out. So people go there and click, 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 click. Then they go home, and then the picture isn't the same. What happened? I forgot the adrenaline. If you look at the photographs, you got to shoot the adrenaline in too. You have to get the real experience, But and then so they show their friends, and their friends are, yeah. You weren't there. You didn't experience the whole thing. You see, so in a way that's like the Buddha talking about samadhi, and you experiencing it. You see, it is breathtaking. It takes your breath away. So it is a quite unique experience. And then there is, part of the controversy about samadhi is, what kind of experience is this? And there's several schools. Some say, well, it's just because there is this vitakka vichara, which is usually translated. Vitakka literally means thinking. So often it's translated as thinking and initial thinking and then sustained thinking. But anybody who's practiced knows that if you're thinking, you haven't got collectedness, right? So that's why I translate it as initial and sustained mental application. That means you apply your mind to the meditation object, then you sustain it. So you can say the thinking is about the meditation object. Yeah, breathing, 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 breathing. And you keep it up, and after a while, anything you repeat often, it begins to become, you can say, a habit of mind. So you don't need to think about it anymore. It's more familiar to you, right? Yeah, just like the way here to Buddhidhamma. When you first come, you got to look on your GPS or something to find your way here. The second time you get familiar. After a while, you can do it in the sleep, probably. Yeah. So you focus on breathing. At first, you got to apply your mind to it. Breathing, breathing. It's for many people, it is very subtle, especially nowadays when we're so up in our head, disembodied. So you think about it, breathing, 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 and then eventually, right, I got it, okay. And then it begins to be more relevant to you. It's like you set up your mind to be conscious of it. Then the breathing is there. Don't need to think about it anymore. Second absorption. No, not quite. No. But the stories in the Pali Canon indicate that even the first absorption is quite a very profound and difficult state of mind to maintain. I think people can touch into it, like I say, in these moments of either their excitement or curiosity or something, but then it goes away. They haven't actually entered into it. It's sort of like been imposed upon them by the environment. But then it quickly evaporates and people think, oh, it's the environment did it. I've got to go to Switzerland and experience that. They forget it happened in your mind because because that sight you saw was a mind blower, you can say. So people go back there to try and repeat it. And then of course it doesn't happen again. The second time I go up to this place, look down again, I know what I'm going to see, so I don't get the same adrenaline rush. After a while, I don't even bother looking anymore. So, got to find a new adrenaline high. Go somewhere else, higher mountain, more dangerous. That's what I was doing actually. I'm getting too old for this. Maybe I better go to a flatter place like Wat Buddhidhamma. But anyway, the general impression is that these absorptions are very, very profound states of mind and not so easy to access. But the Buddha does encourage, he does point out that's what Samma Samadhi is. And like I say, the many uses of the word samadhi generally just means some kind of collectedness of mind. But the Samma Samadhi, Samma, is the uses of it have been in the context of the Eightfold Path. So all those other factors need to be part of it too. The right view, the right attitude, the morality. You can say our lifestyle, not just taking a bunch of precepts, but our lifestyle. We understand that living this a wholesome lifestyle, is important. It's necessary. It gives us more stability of mind, gives us strength of character. When you can begin to go against some of your compulsions, and then of course the right degree of energy, the right mindfulness. Mindfulness is like it's giving us the right guide, what to give attention to, how to give attention to it. And if some strange experiences arise, then you know they arise and pass away, just in their state of mind, arising, passing away, arising and passing away. Okay, sometimes these experiences are, quite new, unique. Everybody has their own particular, you could say, way of expressing some of these states of mind. I know there was one lady in Thailand who wrote a book about her experience of meditation, and she kept seeing purple light all the time. I never had purple light. It's not my thing, man. I see white light. Golden light. I prefer golden and like sunlight. Some people have other experiences. Sometimes their sense of a body is inflated or something, or they feel like they're floating, or I had these experiences where my body felt like it was ballooned out. My arm is twice as big as it was. I'd open my eye and look at it. But if you develop the practice of mindfulness, if you already have awareness of body, that's one of the exercises. The body in different positions, you recognize. This idea of body is very, very limited. Body is all kinds of physical expressions. We hold on to a certain view, 2 legs, 2 arms, etc. But it's mainly it's a concept. There's the 4 elements just manifesting here, so they manifest in all kinds of strange ways. So you've seen that already. So happens in meditate in samadhi practice, and then another experience of body arising, passing away. It's no big deal. So then the whole point of this, putting together the Eightfold Path, the Buddha points out that the real purpose of what's called calm and insight meditation, samatha vipassana. And why samadhi is a bit controversial is because people have different opinions how much samadhi one needs. If one keeps in mind that right samadhi is part of the Eightfold Path, it is necessary for the Eightfold Path to be complete. And we would have talked about calm and insight. Basically there is, a bit simplistically, but there is sort of like the samatha school and there's a vipassana school. Some teachers have, they emphasize one or the other. In the Pali Canon, the Buddha said, he talked about calm and insight. Must be together, must be both of them, you must practice both of them, not just one, but both of them. And there's 3 ways to do it. One is calm first, then vipassana. The second one is vipassana first, then calm. Or the third one is both together, calm and insight. Basically, in calm meditation, right samadhi, samadhi, it dominates. Focusing dominates. In vipassana, mindfulness, you can say, is more dominant. But they're both there. You need mindfulness to know if the mind is focused or not. You need collectedness in order to provide clarity of seeing. Ajahn Chah just said very simply, the calmer the mind, the deeper the insight. Some people who have interpreted meditation, they say, you don't need a lot of calm because because of mindfulness. If you look at mindfulness practice in one way, it's a lot of thinking there, isn't there? Contemplating 16 states of mind. My God, that'll take me years. Contemplating 27 dhammas, my gosh. But the contemplation is seeing. Contemplation means to see again and again and again. Upassana, same word as vipassana. Passana means to see. Upassana means to see again and again. Vipassana means to see deeply, very, very deep. So the contemplation is to be able to see deeply, but to see deeply, it's helpful to have some calm. Otherwise, the mind is not very calm. You see something, and the mind starts to think about it, interpret, imagine, analyze. You don't really see it. You're thinking about it. When the mind is very calm, right, there's no thinking there, right? Right? The other side is, there's too much calm, nothing to think about. So some teachers, if they emphasize quite a bit of calm meditation, it can be a bit dangerous, not only in the practice itself, but if you develop a lot of calm, it can seem like you have no defilements. I don't know how many times in Thailand when I was sitting there, focusing on the breathing, and then I noticed Gee, the mind's so calm. Look, no greed, no aversion, no delusion. It's called Nibbana. I'm there. And then, of course, I like it. Oops, greed. Okay. Oops, I lost it. Oh, aversion. Oops. Back to the breathing again. So, see, the mind was, there's various degrees, levels of calm, you see, as you can experience. And that's what part of the meditation process is, to experience different levels of calm. Ajahn Chah, one time, he talked about these absorptions. And then he said, and I said, don't be bothered with it. All these different, the first absorption has these 4 qualities, and the second doesn't have those 3 qualities. Just think about it as different levels of calm, he said. Because there's quite a lot of, if you get into it, there's a lot of discussion and even disagreements about what these particular, what is vitaka vichara, for example. It goes endless debate about it, endless debate. If you get into it, just people, oh, it's this, it's that, it's the other. Think, why don't you practice it and find out for yourself? But there is some, I would say more like it's probably depends upon the personality. Most ajahns, and kind of following the Buddha's example, they suggest samadhi. Right samadhi is absorption first, deep samadhi, and then into vipassana, into contemplation then. That's kind of the safe way. Well, it's not really safe in a sense, because I would say if you're developing samatha practice or samadhi practice in a very refined way, important to have a teacher, because all kinds of strange things can happen. You need somebody close by that you can contact to ask about what's going on here, to give you some guidance. And some of the people who have practiced without that, and they had to have mental problems. Okay, say the mind is not only altered, the consciousness, but it's also focused. So, if fear comes up, for example, and your mind's really focused, not in absorption, of course, but at least it's focused a lot more than normal, you can be terribly frightened. You can just go like that, Fear can just become panic in a minute. Unless you're really stabilized in the practice, or have a teacher close by, and give you some guidance. And then, especially people who are good at samadhi, and there are some people, I would say a lot of Westerners, not very good. We think too much. But there are some people, I heard about, this lady came to see me once, and she took up some kind of meditation practice, which was, kind of commercially available. You pay a certain fee, and they give you a mantra to chant, and you can go along and you do a bit of meditation every day. But for some reason, she was very gifted. So she sat down to do this meditation, for 20, poof, she was gone. She woke up an hour later and said, where am I? What happened? She just totally lost consciousness for a whole hour. Then she got worried. What was I doing in that last hour? Was I, hypnotized? Was I unconscious? Was I robbing a bank? What was I doing? So she came to see the Buddhists. Came to see me, actually. So I just, that's a deep state of concentration. Just for some reason, I don't know what, you don't even want to go there, why she could do this, but she just had a very, ability to just focus very, very deeply, very easily, And her teachers who were teaching this commercially available meditation didn't have a clue what she was doing. They couldn't help her. Nobody else does that, you see. I just said it's a very, very deep state of concentration. I would suggest you don't focus so much on your mantra. Don't go there so deeply. Try and just hold back a little bit, so you don't get too focused and then become totally absorbed, and then almost like unconscious. You say in the first absorption, no sense contact, no speaking, no hearing. It's like you're just in a catatonic state. But you see, you can't stay there for very long, so you have to go to the toilet or something, or get some water. So, So she, after about an hour, she could wake up by herself, but she could just like that. And when I was, when I became a novice at the monastery in Thailand, had to go to a meditation monastery to become a novice. So this teacher, I didn't stay there. I just went to stay for a week, I think, to learn the chanting, and then I went back to the other monastery. But there was a German man with me there. Two of us took the precepts together. And this German man had done meditation in Germany, so he knew a little bit about meditation, but he had only learned samatha, calm meditation. That's all he knew. But the teacher was a Vipassana teacher. So he tried to explain to this man about the difference. This man couldn't quite get it. So in the monastery, there was this novice. We both called him the naughty novice because he was a little bit, he was maybe 18 or something, but he was really obnoxious, I would say. He'd walk around, and he'd be throwing rocks at the dogs, and he walks past my hut to go to the toilet, and he bangs on the wall, and he's really, what was he doing in a meditation center, Anyway, the teacher trying to explain to this man what Vipassana was, insight meditation. So he gave him a lesson. He said, okay, we'll go to meditation hall right now. So he met at the meditation hall, and he called this novice in. And this man thought, what's this novice coming in for? You can't meditate. And so the teacher said, oh, sit down, to the novice. So the novice sat down, and he said, okay, meditate. The novice was sitting there like this, and boom, he just stopped dead, not moving. The teacher took out a needle, stuck it in his hand, nothing. He was just totally, so like catatonic. And the teacher said, okay, you can wake up now. So he comes out, starts throwing rocks at the dogs again. The teacher said, samadhi, no wisdom. And apparently this is a young child. He could just sit down and just disappear. The parents said, what to do with him? Send him to the monastery. But I don't know if he ever learned Vipassana or not, but anyway. But there's also some people who have learned, Westerners even, who've done meditation, who've done samadhi practice, and they're quite good at it. But the trouble is, if you're good at it, you kind of lose yourself in it. You bliss out. You sit down for a little while, and you don't contemplate your defilements. You don't contemplate anything because you're already in bliss and happiness. So why do anything else? And then they never develop any wisdom. There's somebody I knew in Switzerland, and they could come to the monastery. They could sit for 5 hours. They come on the full moon and just sit there for 5 hours. They get up, they go home, and their home life was a disaster. With their husband and their children, one thing after another, back to the monastery again, get my meditation fix. But the point is, with calm and insight, one needs a balance. Yeah, and different teachers have different opinions. One of the questions I asked quite a few meditation masters: how much calm do you need? And most of them, disciples of Ajahn Mun, they said fourth absorption, at least fourth. But a lot of them also were very gifted meditators. Since they were very young, they could get into very deep states of concentration. So anyway, then I went back to Ajahn Chah and I asked Ajahn Chah, how much calm do you need? And I thought he would say, first absorption, second, third, fourth. He just said, calm enough. I said, yeah, give me a number. Calm enough for insight. And I found that most useful because everybody's different. For some people, they have kind of a nervous temperament. They need a lot of calm because the mind's always very, very flighty, and they're very active or very busy, and they can't really contemplate very deeply. So perhaps they need quite a bit of calm before they try and if they try and contemplate too early, they get more things to think about, more things to worry about. The five hindrances, or worry about them rather than contemplate them and try to find out how they arise and pass away. So it depends upon the individual, but always keep in mind that the Buddha talked about both of them, calm and insight, calm and insight. So if you're, for example, you're meditating, what I usually tell people, when you begin the meditation, first of all, bring attention to the body. Is the body relaxed? The body is reasonably comfortable and relaxed. How about the state of mind? If you notice your state of mind is very busy, active, okay. That gives you, mind is too busy, so calm meditation first. Focus on breathing for a little while. Then after a little while, now what's the state of mind right now? Let's calm down, okay. Now try to develop insight meditation. Observe the sensations in the body. Observe them arising and passing away. Observe the breathing arising and passing away. Maybe a certain thought arises in your mind. The first time, just observe it, back to the breathing again. Second time, observe it a little more carefully. Well, what kind of mental activity is this? A memory, a thought, plan for the future, then back to the breathing again. If it goes back 3 times, that's my rule of thumb, 3 times, it probably has some deeper story to it. So it may be useful to try and look a bit deeper. Look at how the body relates to it. You have a thought in your mind, what's the body doing? What's your breathing doing? Has your breathing been activated? Is it even more deflated? This thought was depressing. But try and observe it then. Then if you start thinking about it too much, back to the breathing again. You'll only be able to see clearly what this is with calm and mindfulness, clarity, collectedness and mindfulness. So you develop both of them. Mindfulness is trying to observe more widely the causes of it, where it comes from, how it ceases, but collectedness is more focused. So sometimes observing too widely, just get scattered somewhere. Other times, too much calm, nothing is arising. Mind just sucking peacefully, which is okay for a while, but no wisdom. Next lifetime, you'll be throwing rocks at dogs. But peaceful about it too. So we've got to keep in mind that it is calm and insight, that they work together, you see. And as you keep that in mind and try to work with it, you see yourself. There's sometimes some aspects of your emotion, of your states of mind, that maybe, it's really easy to observe. Other times it maybe, just stirs you up. You get frightened, you get reactive, you get resistant to it or something, or you're trying to figure it out. Everybody has their defense mechanism, their rationalization, or their blocking or something. Back to the breathing again. Need a bit more collectedness to see through, to stabilize that reactiveness of mind. But really, the whole point of right samadhi is to coordinate or to integrate with the rest of the Eightfold Path. Yeah. Sometimes it may require a little bit more change of lifestyle. If some of the states of mind are hard to observe, you may have to change your lifestyle. A little bit more, less talking, a little bit more clarity about what you're saying, what your speech is, and maybe you have to alter what right view is, what you think about the Buddhist teachings, contemplate them, read more about them, get more knowledge about them. There's a whole range of different ways we can work with the 5 hindrances. I wrote a whole book about it, this thick, about the 5 hindrances. Yeah, that's only 5. We'll mention the other 5 million. But they're the basic ones, so once you get a handle on that, you can be able to work through all of them. Anyway, that's I better pause there. You another opinion about the what right samadhi? Okay. So, any questions?
Yes, one call. Could you talk a little bit more about what well-being from seclusion means? Is that opposed to well-being from sensuality?
Yep. I don't know the exact word translated as seclusion, but there's three kinds of seclusion. They call it vivek. There's you say the seclusion from the senses. And then there's samadhi is also is deeper seclusion. Yeah. And then finally the seclusion from the defilements. To most people, they get the well-being from the sense realm, you see. Yeah. But it's very, very momentary, very, very elusive. Whereas when you away from the sense desires, there's the like calmness of mind. The spiritual well-being is much more sustainable. It's closer to the way things really are. Not always being bombarded with all this sense stimulation. But it's hard to find even in the modern day and age. I should have mentioned that one of the supporting qualities is quiet. Yeah. Well, it does say, you go to a quiet place, you go to a cave or under the root of a tree or something, to a secluded place, a quiet place, ideally. Yeah. Of course, unfortunately, in Asia, there's usually more noise in the forest than there is in the kuti. All those cicadas and things. But in the cave, a cave can be very quiet in a cave. Yep.
Initially, when you were talking about Jhanas absorptions, you mentioned that the hindrances are
Suspended.
in that time.
Yep.
But when one comes out, they come rushing back. Is it the case though that you have a bit of a sort of a honeymoon period?
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say rushing back, but I mean they're still there, and you can get fooled because you think they're gone. With this calm state of mind, and then you get relaxed, and then you find, oops, creeping back again. There is a little bit of carryover, like you say, honeymoon. You say,
Yeah.
yes, yeah. And the mind still is, even you withdraw from, directly the focusing on the breathing, for example. There still is a bit of carryover. The mind is still in that space, for a little while. But then depends on how, restless or active your mind is. That's why people can kind of fool themselves, because there is that bit of a carryover, you see, and you think, wow. People go on a retreat, for 10 days or something, and they get really calm, and they think they really accomplished something, and they go back home, and then 2 days looking for the next retreat. It's a little better. Well, some places they do kind of point out the importance of continuity, keeping up with the practice. Other places, people have to go to work on Monday morning. So you're doing intensive meditation till 10 days till Sunday evening, then you're back home, and then you're back to work again Monday morning, and psychic shock. And there was one guy, apparently he's on a 3-month retreat in America. Then he had to drive home. And he was very bit frightened of driving because he hadn't driven for 3 months, on the road. And then, but anyway, he got on the highway in America and was driving back home, and police stopped them. And he oh, yeah, I'm sorry, I must have been going a little bit, over the speed limit. He said, police said, you're going too slow. He didn't even know it. He was totally slowed down, spaced out, and hard to speed up to normal again. So I don't know what it's like going to work Monday morning. Gee, you just stand there looking at your computer screen, breathing in, breathing out.
And also when we just further to that one for, because the mind is, neuroplastic or brain, being in a samadhi state at length or many times regularly, without the hindrances there, that could train one to have less defilement over time without having to investigate. Would that be the case? Just by the nature of spending time in that state?
I mean, to a certain degree, because you aren't your mind, you're spending time, your mind spending time in a very skillful space. So you say not creating a lot of unskillful action. But most of these defilements, even the hindrances, have a deep root. So unless you can dig out the root, they're still going to be there. That's why, Ajahn Chah gave the simile one time. It's like samadhi's like putting a rock on the grass. See? And the grass isn't growing around in there because there's a rock on it. If you take the rock off, the grass is going to keep growing because the root's still there, you see. So if you've got to kind of, remove the rock, remove the samadhi to look at what's going on there. But if you do put the rock on the grass is, it's not going to grow fully, you see. It's going to be somewhat reduced. So it might give you a possibility to see down to the root. If the grass is really long, you just chop the top off, right? You forget there's a root to it. But if it's been suppressed a little bit, then you go down and, there's a little, I can see a sprout there. So it gives you the possibility then to get down to the roots. That's where the investigation is important. The factors of awakening, investigation of Dhamma. The mindfulness kind of points out what's happening in your mind. The investigation of Dhamma now is to investigate where does it come from? What's the nature of that root now? But first you have to see it. It's got a root to it. Most of us don't even want to do that. It's not there, out of sight, out of mind, you see. So cover over with samadhi and bliss out. And
what do you think about metta meditation?
that's one of the 40 meditation objects. So basically, I would say, start off with a simple one like breathing first. And then if you notice you got these, kind of patterns, say in this case, maybe you see aversion or anger coming up again and again and again, and it's just hard to get through it, see through it. If you practice a different kind of meditation like metta, gives you a different perspective on it. Like for aversion, people are locked in a mental state of always reverting to aversion, you see. I mentioned, one time I talked about how we have these neural pathways in the brain, you see. So if you keep thinking in the same way, apparently these pathways line up and become more and more deeply ingrained, you see. Become just like habits. So you're habitually thinking in a negative way or a averse way, you see. But then practicing metta meditation opens up other pathways, so that you don't automatically just kind of just slip into aversion pathway, you see. Yeah. And the same with, they say for lust, develop the reflection on the unattractive aspect of the body. Some people they say, they talk about them as being antidotes. They try to use metta to kill aversion. That's not how it works. No. They use the contemplation of a skeleton to kind of kill their lust. That's not how it works. No. It's to give you a different perspective on it. We always look at the body as attractive, well, it's in certain instances, attractive body. But if you're also been contemplating the unattractive part of it, then you see, there's a different side, to it as well. Yeah. And especially metta, I would say, is one of the most, is the second most important meditation practice, because it doesn't only open to, say, aversion, not only effective for aversion, but for any kind of unpleasant. I mean, aversion comes from unpleasant feeling, you see. There's all kinds of unpleasant feelings. But we don't want to see them. Yeah, even things like, doubt and depression, any of the hindrances, we don't want to see them. But if you practice friendliness, try and be friendly to the aversion. Try and be friendly to the doubt. Try and be friendly to the fear. Try and be friendly to the restlessness and the sleepiness. Can you be friendly to sleepiness? Yes, hug my pillow. But it means more to be receptive to it, you see, open to it. And this sleepiness is a whole process, a psychological process happening there, you see. So that at least you can be open to it in a wider sense. So it's for pain, very helpful. You have to be careful when it's physical pain, because there is obviously the body is being stressed. But if you're more open and friendly to it, you can study it. You can recognize it is changing, it is. And most people, when they have pain, they constrict. And they have aversion in the background somewhere. But to be more friendly, well, pain is just part of life, It's telling us, our limitations, for example, Yeah.
Could you please talk a little bit more about what mindfulness purified by equanimity means?
Well, you're already on the fourth jhana, are you? Well, equanimity is a very, very advanced emotion, I would say. So most of us, we try and practice mindfulness, but we still have our opinions about it. You still have like and dislike. You have a pleasant and unpleasant feeling about it. But equanimity is receiving everything. The mindfulness is being able to see through everything, whether you like it or not, you see. Like just in the body meditations, for example, some people, they pick and choose. Oh, I prefer to do the 4 elements myself rather than the corpse meditations. See? But if the mindfulness is purified by equanimity, I don't have any preference. I don't like one and don't like the other, you see. So it's a little bit, it's a higher degree or a higher refinement of mindfulness, if you like. Much as we try and practice mindfulness and just be, observing, objectively observing reality, we still have preferences in the background, you see. A little voice in the back kind of pointing you that way, pointing you that way. But with equanimity, you don't have that anymore. No choice, no like, no dislike, equanimous. Everything is equal, if you can imagine.
Kind of sounds like freedom.
Yeah.
Called by your,
Yeah. Well, equanimity is, it's the highest. It's the highest. It's in the fourth absorption, very advanced. It's the fourth of the Brahma Viharas, the divine abidings. It's the fourth of them, you see. So it's very, very advanced. Yeah.
Sorry, long for in this tradition, there's only 4 jhanas. It's in some traditions we hear of 8.
Yep, there's 8 or even 9. Yep. I just kept trying to simplify it. I don't think we need to worry about them too much. If you finish the 4, I'll give you some guidelines in the next 4. Okay. Yeah.
I've also heard that the 4 are only
Yeah, little icing on the top, yeah. Icing on the cake, yeah.
Well, tell us about the knife jhana.
Hmm?
Wonderful. Tell us about the knife jhana.
No.
The knife one. You're saying
It's the cessation of perception and feeling. Yep. That's the one that the Buddha himself developed. He practiced the 8 jhanas
yeah.
with other teachers, but the Buddha was the one who went beyond that. Cessation of perception and feeling.
Right.
Yep. The 8th one was neither perception nor non-perception.
Yeah.
Yeah. So are you up to that level yet? Or just curious? You're just going to taste the icing. Yeah. Not eat the cake. Yeah.
Could you briefly go over again just some exercises that we could do if we've gotten to a certain point, our samatha or samadhi, that we can use to gain insight or wisdom? Just some exercises. I think you've mentioned them before.
Well, basically, it is, when the mind is reasonably calm, as Ajahn said, calm enough, then more or less you just go through the exercises in mindfulness. Starting off with the bodily sensations, and if your mind is still calm and you're still clear, enough clarity, try and observe the feelings, the states of mind, and it gets a bit more refined as you get down, and then maybe take on one of the themes, the 5 hindrances. You just go through the 5, and is there really any sensual desire? Is there aversion? Sometimes it's there, but you just don't even recognize it until you have a name, maybe. Is this what aversion is? Resistance, aversion. It's not like it's not raging about something or somebody, but I noticed at one time in my practice, started off with aversion, anger actually at one person. I looked more carefully, and it was resentment. Oh, that's interesting. Then it looked a bit more. It's frustration, and then it became fear of ego. You see, there's a whole, kind of, it's like different skins of the onion underneath it, and it came out in the top as anger to that person. But that person was already gone. The person was just like a trigger of all this unprocessed aversion, you see. Right from frustration, I had images of being a little child, to be frustrated. Nobody's feeding me. Wah, wah, wah. and that builds up, you see, unresolved, and it becomes aversion to this guy. He just triggered, and I could acknowledge this guy was even right what he said. So it's totally irrational fear, irrational anger, totally irrational. Where'd that come from? That came from that little baby who's wah, 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 who's irrational. That's where it started. Well, it started even before that, right down to the ego, beginning of self, you see. Trying to hold on to some essence of self, and it builds up with all these different levels, you see. So if you can, you're just aware of, okay, there is aversion there. Let's, what's behind that? You can trace it back right down to the grasping the self. No self, no anger. Yeah? Easy to say. So you can go, if at least the theory behind it, you can look at the 5 hindrances, look at the 7 factors of awakening. Is there joy? Meditation. Is there enough energy? Right energy. Is there, tranquility, etc. Developing some, trying to reduce the others, So maybe if you find yourself thinking too much, though, back to the breathing again, so that you get more experience of joy rather than just the theory of it, an experience of what equanimity is, rather than just the thought of it. It's directing us to experience directly, and You can only do that if the mind is really calm, because the calm mind can go beyond the conceptual, beyond concepts, to the direct experience. Okay, all good?
One more question.
Oh, one more question.
Thank you.
The last one, the really last
Yeah.
one.
So how much faith and trust is required in this causal sequence? Like, something like rebirth is quite challenging to
Yep.
accept from when you're coming from like a Western
Yep.
perspective.
Yep.
So is it kind of just the belief that meditation is a beneficial activity for myself, or do I have to be, all in and say, yes, I even believe in rebirth,
Yep.
all these difficult things?
Well, I would say, initially the trust is just, that's why I say trust. I don't have total faith either. Some things that the Buddha said I read in the scriptures, I don't know what it means. I don't totally believe it. But I trust that, he's had an experience, more experience than I have. So he can teach me something, and I can practice it and find out for myself. And then it goes in stages like that. As you gain more experience, ideally, you find out for yourself. So maybe at one point you just have right, rebirth. Oh yeah, it seems logical to me, but kind of just the thought, just imagine that this mind, this incredible power of mind, just kind of blots out a death. Hard to believe, But anyway, I studied science, so I can think of it that way. But I don't know. I didn't have the experience of previous. Although later in life, later in meditation, I did have some strange experiences which could only be explained as past life. I don't know. Okay. You had,
With rebirth and all that, I'm not totally sure. Is it just the karma that gets reused, or like how does that, like what's getting used to start a new existence?
well, like I say, if you have craving, still have craving. You see, craving is what holds things together. See, so say for example, maybe it's a bit too late in the afternoon, but say you suddenly think about, the cake today.
Yeah.
Then tomorrow you go back there again and try and relive it, right?
Right.
And then you go back there and then you think, it's like yesterday, I'll be reborn here again. And then it's too dry. See? But it's the craving that brought you back there again, you see? Yeah. So what, and in the meantime, you've changed. You're not the same person. The cake's changed. Everything's changed, but your craving's the same, you see?
Yeah.
So the problem with rebirth in Buddhism is that we keep thinking that I'm reborn again. I'm reborn. Yeah, but you're changing all the time. Who was reborn? Who was you? Then you try and look and really see what is this me that's possibly going to be reborn. The body's totally changing all the time. I don't even know who's reborn tomorrow, I hope I don't have a stroke at night and then come up reborn as a vegetable, but I can't be sure. I don't know, I heard a story about my friend of my cousin. They played together in the afternoon. The next morning, in the nighttime, this boy had an aneurysm. And the next morning, he was 5 years old. Playing with my cousin when he's 15. The next morning, he had the brain of a 5-year-old. Overnight. And then just brain. And what did he do? Well, can't say. Yeah. Be careful what you think. Better check under your pillow. There's no scorpions there. But the trouble is, people they refer to I, me in this, but it's really the craving behind it that's holding it together, you see. That's kind of the what it is, the egg white that holds the cake together, you know. But it's a bit hard to see because that's the will, that's the desire. It's in the background all the time. But try and observe that. What is the desire, the wanting, the longing, you know? And it's all based in your sense of a self, you know. But you know, the Buddha, you know, the Arahants still had their body mind, but they had no craving for it. And they had nothing that was holding it together. So when they passed away, that no more rebirth. Just they say the four elements, go back to the four elements. You know, the mind, consciousness dissolves. Yep. Yep. No more cake. So you need a lot of equanimity. No more cake. Oh no, I don't like that. Have to give up your cake too. So. Okay.